the man politicians came to when they needed votes, the man ministers called when families couldn't pay rent. By 1962, Bumpy had survived 2 decades in the game. He'd outlasted Dutch Schultz, negotiated with Lucky Luciano, earned respect from the 5 families, and he'd done it all while keeping the NYPD at arm's length. But that arrangement was about to be tested. Captain William Billy McCarthy had just been transferred to the 28th Precinct, Harlem, and Billy had a reputation. In Brooklyn, he'd been known as Billy the Bag because he always carried a bag for collecting payoffs. Restaurants paid, bookies paid, even legitimate businesses paid. Billy saw Harlem as his retirement fund, one big score before he cashed in his pension, and the biggest score in Harlem was Bumpy Johnson. It started with a raid, not on Bumpy directly. That would be too obvious. Billy targeted one of Bumpy's number spots on 125th Street. 15 cops stormed in at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday, arrested everyone, confiscated the day's receipts, $23,000 in cash, but the money never made it to evidence. Billy kept it. That night, one of Bumpy's lieutenants, a man named Illinois Gordon, came to Bumpy's office above Small's Paradise nightclub. "Boss, we got a problem. That new Captain McCarthy, he hit the spot on 125th. Bumpy didn't look up from the chessboard he was studying. "How much did they take?" $23,000. But that's not the worst part. "What's the worst part?" "The money didn't get logged. McCarthy kept it. And word is he's coming for more. He told one of his sergeants he's going to tax every operation in Harlem, starting with you." Bumpy moved his knight. "Is that what he said? Tax?" His exact words were, "I'm going to squeeze that black bastard until he begs." Bumpy was quiet for a long moment. Then he looked up at Illinois. "Set up a meeting. Tomorrow. Neutral ground. I want to talk to this captain. Face to face." "You sure that's smart, boss? This guy's dirty, but he's still a cop. You can't touch him." Bumpy smiled slightly. Who said anything about touching him? The meeting was set for noon the next day. A diner on 145th Street, owned by a Greek man who minded his own business and had a back room perfect for private conversations. Bumpy arrived first. Alone, no bodyguards, no weapons. Just him in a tailored gray suit, sitting in a booth, drinking coffee. Captain McCarthy walked in at 12:05, deliberately late, establishing dominance. He was a big man. 6'2", 240 pounds, red face, Irish cop through and through. He had a sergeant with him. Young guy, nervous. McCarthy slid into the booth across from Bumpy. The sergeant stood by the door. "Bumpy Johnson," McCarthy said, like he was addressing a suspect. "I've heard a lot about you." "Captain McCarthy, I've heard about you too." McCarthy laughed. "I bet you have. You're probably pretty upset about yesterday. That was a nice little operation you had on 125th. Was?" $23,000, Bumpy said calmly. "That's what you took." "Evidence," McCarthy said, smirking. "Had to confiscate it. You understand." "Except it never made it to evidence, did it?" McCarthy's smirk faded slightly. "You accusing me of something?" "I'm stating a fact. The money disappeared, and now you're here. I'm guessing this isn't a social call." McCarthy leaned forward. "You're a smart man, Bumpy, so let me be direct. Things are changing in Harlem. I'm in charge now, and if you want to keep operating, you're going to pay me. $10,000 a week, every week. Non-negotiable." Bumpy took a sip of his coffee. $10,000 a week. That's what, $500,000 a year? Math checks out. "And if I say no?" McCarthy's voice got hard. "Then I shut you down. Every spot, every operation. I'll have 50 cops in Harlem tomorrow. Your people will be in cages. Your money will be gone. And you?" He pointed at Bumpy. "You'll be back in prison. Maybe Sing Sing this time. I hear they love cop killers there." "Oh, wait, you're not a cop killer. Yet." The threat was clear. Refuse to pay, and McCarthy would plant evidence. Frame Bumpy for killing a cop. Life in prison or worse. Bumpy set down his coffee cup. You done? I'm done when you say yes. Then I'm afraid you're going to be here a while, because my answer is no. McCarthy blinked. What? No, I'm not paying you. Not $10,000? Not $10? Not a penny. The sergeant by the door shifted uncomfortably. McCarthy's face turned red. You don't seem to understand the situation. Oh, I understand perfectly, Bumpy interrupted. You think because you're a cop, you're untouchable. You think you can come into my neighborhood, steal from my people, and I'll just roll over. I don't think it, McCarthy said. I know it, because if you touch me, if anything happens to me, every cop in New York will be hunting you. You'll be dead or in prison within a week. Bumpy leaned back. You're right. I can't touch you. But I don't have to. What's that supposed to mean? Bumpy pulled out an envelope from his jacket, dropped it on the table. Open it. McCarthy hesitated, then he opened the envelope. Inside were photographs. McCarthy entering a building in Queens. McCarthy with a woman who wasn't his wife. McCarthy taking money from a known bookmaker. McCarthy at a mob social club in Little Italy. McCarthy's hands started shaking. Where did you get these? I have friends, Captain. Friends in places you don't expect. That building in Queens? That's your mistress's apartment. Nice girl. Shame about the husband. He's a longshoreman, right? Big guy. Short temper. McCarthy's face went from red to white. That bookmaker you're shaking hands with in photo 3? He's an FBI informant. Has been for 2 years. They've been building a corruption case. They just needed evidence. Now they have it. Bumpy pulled out another envelope. And this one? These are bank records. Your bank records, showing deposits that don't match your police salary. The IRS would be very interested in these. McCarthy couldn't speak. But here's my favorite, Bumpy continued, pulling out one more photo. This is you at a Genovese family gathering last month, breaking bread with made men. You know what happens to cops who get too cozy with the mob, Captain? They disappear, not from the force, from life. Bumpy gathered the photos and put them back in the envelopes. So here's how this is going to work. You're going to return that $23,000. You're going to leave my operations alone. And you're going to transfer out of Harlem within 30 days. And if I don't? Then these photos go everywhere. The FBI, the NYPD Internal Affairs, the New York Times, your wife, your mistress's husband, and the Genovese family, because they don't like cops who bring heat. Bumpy stood up. You tried to play chess, Captain. But you didn't realize I've been playing this game since before you were born. You're not the first dirty cop who thought he could shake me down. You won't be the last, but you will be the smartest if you walk away now. McCarthy sat there, frozen. 30 days, Bumpy repeated. And Captain, don't ever come to Harlem again. Bumpy walked out of the diner. Illinois Gordon was waiting outside with the car. How'd it go, boss? He'll be gone by the end of the month. And he was. 28 days later, Captain William McCarthy requested a transfer to Staten Island. Quietly. No explanation. Just a sudden desire to work in a quieter borough. The $23,000 was returned. Anonymously. Left in a bag outside Small's Paradise with a note that said, Apologies. Word spread through the NYPD. Bumpy Johnson was off limits. You could patrol Harlem. You could make arrests. But you didn't shake him down. You didn't try to extort him. Because if you did, your secrets would become everyone's business. For the next 10 years, until Bumpy died in 1968, the relationship between him and the NYPD was professional, distant, respectful, not because they liked him, but because they feared what he knew. Now here's what makes this story important. Most people think power comes from violence, from being the toughest guy in the room. But Bumpy Johnson understood something deeper. Real power is information. McCarthy had guns, had a badge, had the full force of the NYPD behind him. But Bumpy had something better. He had photographers who documented McCarthy's life. He had contacts in the FBI. He had bank records. And he had patience. Bumpy didn't react emotionally. He didn't send goons to beat up McCarthy. He didn't make threats he couldn't keep. He just showed McCarthy that every move has consequences, and sometimes the consequences come from directions you never see coming. That's the difference between a gangster and a kingpin. A gangster rules by fear. A kingpin rules by knowing everyone's weaknesses. Bumpy Johnson was a kingpin. So what happened to Captain McCarthy? He finished his career in Staten Island, quiet precinct, no drama. He retired in 1968, died in 1975, heart attack. The photos never surfaced publicly. Bumpy kept them. Insurance. A reminder to McCarthy and anyone else who thought about crossing him. As for Bumpy, he kept running Harlem until his heart gave out in 1968. Not from violence. Not from prison. Just old age catching up to a man who'd lived 100 lifetimes. But his legend lives on. The man who outsmarted the mob, who earned respect from the 5 families, who made corrupt cops think twice. The Godfather of Harlem. If this story opened your eyes to how real power works, hit that like button. And if you want more untold stories about the men who changed history, subscribe. Because next week we're telling you about the time Bumpy Johnson walked into a meeting with Lucky Luciano unarmed and walked out with the deal of a lifetime. And trust me, you don't want to miss that. See you in the next one.